Welcome back to Dahoy. Part 9. Kinda gave him a long break, didn't I? Just had a bunch of other things going on. But I want to finish this book up before I finish up Starry River. And then let's see. Starry River is a fiction book, but I want to get another brain. I want to get another Adventures of the Great Brain up. And then we'll move on to Foy Yin. Alright. Contemplating a saying. Before emotional consciousness has been smashed, the mind fire burns bright. At just such a time, just take a saying you have doubts about to arouse and awaken yourself. For example, a monk asked Jiao Jiao, "Does a dog have Buddha nature or not?" Jiao Jiao said, "No." Just bring this up to arouse and awaken yourself. Whatever side you come at it from, it's not it. You are wrong. Moreover, don't use the mind to await enlightenment. And you shouldn't. Oh wait, we already read this one. Ha 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 ha. A sudden leap. Generally, gentlemen who have been overly involved in worldly affairs for a long time have long been stuck like glue in the afflictions of the senses. When, unexpectedly, it happens that someone instructs them to do some meditation in a quiet place, and they temporarily get a feeling of unconcern, they immediately take this as the ultimate in peace and happiness. They are far from realizing that quiescent unconcern is like a rock pressing down on grass. Though for a time they become aware that the scene is cut off, nevertheless the root of the branches are still there. And when they experience quiescent extinction to the full, or when will they experience quiescent extinction to the full? If you want to have real quiescent extinction appear before you, you must make a sudden leap within the fires of birth and death, and leap out without moving a hair's breadth. Then you'll turn the rivers into pure ghee and the earth into pure gold. Faced with situations, you'll be free to release or capture, to kill or bring life. No device to benefit others or to benefit yourself will be impossible. 2 awakenings. In the old days, the venerable Yin Yang said to Jiao Zhou, "What is it like when not bringing a single thing?" Jiao said, "Put it down." Yin Yang said, "Since it is not a single thing is brought, put what down?" Zhou said, "If you can't put it down, pick it up." At these words, Yin Yang was greatly enlightened. Again, a monk asked an ancient worthy, "What's it like when the student can't cope?" The ancient worthy said, "I too am like this." The monk said, "Teacher, why can't you cope either?" The ancient worthy said, "If I could cope, I couldn't take away this inability to cope of yours." If I could cope, I could take away this inability to cope of yours. Okay. At these words, the monk was greatly enlightened. The enlightenment of these 2 monks is precisely where you are lost. Where you have doubts is exactly where these 2 monks asked their questions. Phenomena are born from discrimination, and also perish through discrimination. Wipe out all phenomena of discrimination. This Dharma has no birth or destruction. Facing death. You report that the last day of your life has already arrived. You should contemplate just like this in your daily activities. Then the mind of worldly affliction will naturally come to an end. When the mind of affliction has come to an end, then the next day, as before, early spring is still chilly. An ancient worthy said, If you want to know the meaning of Buddha nature, you must observe times and seasons, causes and conditions. This melting away of the mind of affliction is the time and season of old Yellowface, Buddha, appearing in the world and achieving Buddhahood. The time and season of his sitting upon the diamond seat of enlightenment, vanquishing armies of delusive demons, turning the wheel of Dharma, delivering sentient beings, and entering nirvana. It's no different from the time you've called the last day of your life. To get here, just contemplate like this. This contemplation is called correct contemplation. Contemplation different from this is called wrong contemplation. If you don't distinguish incorrect from correct, you won't avoid shifting and changing, following after the times and seasons of others. If you want to get so you're not following the times and seasons, simply abandon it at once. Put it down, where it cannot be put down. Don't take these words either. As before, it's just you, layman. There is no other man besides. Master Chang Ching said, the title of this is, There is no second person. Master Chang Ching said, the ultimate truth is wordless. People of the time do not realize this. They impose the practice of other things, considering them accomplishments. They do not know that inherent nature has never been sense objects, that it is the gate of subtle, wondrous, great liberation, aware of all that there is, without being stained or obstructed. This light has never stopped. From ages past up until present, it's been steady, never changing, shining like the sun on near or far. Though it touches myriad colors, it does not mix with all of them. The subtle illumination of the spiritual light does not depend on being cultivated and refined. Since they don't understand, people grasp the forms of things, just like rubbing the eyes, falsely making optical illusions arise. They wear themselves out futilely, passing many eons in vain. If you could turn back and reflect, there's no second person. All of your conduct and activities won't be lacking in the real aspect. You say that you have dull faculties? Try to reflect back like this. See if the one who could recognize the dullness is dull too or not. If you do not turn the light around and reflect back, you're just keeping to your dull faculties and adding more affliction. Would that be adding illusionary falsehood to illusionary falsehood, laying an optical illusion on top of an optical illusion? Just listen. The one who can know that these sense faculties are inherently dull is definitely not dull. Though you shouldn't hold to this dull one, you shouldn't abandon it to study either. Grasping and rejecting, sharp and dull, these have to do with people, not with mind. This mind is one substance with all the Buddhas of three worlds. There is no duality. If there were duality, the Dharma would not be of even sameness. Receiving the teaching and transmitting the mind are both empty falsehoods. Looking for truth and seeking reality seem even further off. Just realize that mind, with a single essence and no duality, definitely does not lie within sharp and dull, or grasping and rejecting. Then you'll see the moon and forget the finger, immediately making a clean break. If you linger further in thought, calculating before and after, then you are still understanding the empty fist, as if it had held something real, falsely concocting strange things that miss the phenomenon of the sense objects, vainly confining yourself within matter, sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness, within the elements of the sensory experience. You'll never be done. You'll never get done. Feels like I read these before. I'm must have read them earlier in one of my previous Zen, random Zen coffee times. So these have come up before. Okay, it's just you, to Wang Yin Chang. I take it you have shut your gate and suspended your dealings with people, leaving aside all worldly affairs to arouse yourself day and night with the sayings I suggested to you. Very good, very good. In handling this mind, you must awaken In handling this mind, you must take enlightenment as a standard. If you shrink back saying your root nature is inferior, and then go on to seek an entry, this is truly being inside the palace, asking where the capital is. Right when you are arousing yourself, who is it? And who is it who knows your root nature is inferior? And who is it who is seeking an entry? Not avoiding the mouthwork, I'll explain it clearly for you, layman. It's just you, Wang Yin Chang. There aren't two. There's only one Wang Yin Chang. Where else do we get the one who's arousing himself, the one who knows his root nature is inferior, the one who seeks an entry? You should know. They're all shadows of Wang Yin Chang. They have nothing to do with the other Wang Yin Chang. If it is the real Wang Yin Chang, then necessarily his root nature isn't inferior, and he doesn't seek an entry. Just believe in yourself as your own master, and it's not worth so much hassle. In the olden days, there was a monk who asked Yang Shan, in the Chan school's sudden enlightenment, what is the meaning of ultimate entry? Yan Shan said, the meaning of this is extremely difficult. Those in the school of the ancestral teachers with superior faculties and superior wisdom hear one, awaken to 1,000, and attain total mental command. Even for people with these faculties, it's hard to understand this meaning. How could people whose faculties are small and whose wisdom is meager get it? Therefore, an ancient worthy said, if you don't meditate peacefully and still your thoughts, when you get here, you're always bound to be confused. The monk said, apart from this standard, are there any other expedients to enable students to gain entry or not? Yang Shan said, whether or not there are any besides is making your mind uneasy. Now I ask you, where are you from? The monk said, from Yuzhou. And Yang Shan said, do you still think of that place or not? Oh, constantly thinking of it. And Yang Shan said, that place is filled with buildings and gardens, and forests, and people, and horses. Think back to that which thinks. Are there so many kinds there or not? He said. Well, here I don't see anything existing at all, Yang. Or he said, here I don't see anything existing at all. And Yang Shang said, your understanding is still the objective. All right for the stage of faith, but not for your stage of personality. I've already been overly kind, but I must furtherly note. Stage of personality means you, Wing Chang. Stage of faith means the one who knows your root nature is inferior and who seeks an entry. Right when you're arousing yourself with a saying, reflect back, is the one that can do the arousing Wang Chang or not? When you get here, there is not even room for a hair inside. If you linger in thought and hold back your potential, then you're being confused by shadows. Please apply your spirit soon. You shouldn't neglect this. Who is in the way? Your letter informs me that your root nature is dim and dull, so that though you make efforts to cultivate and uphold the Dharma, you have never gotten an instance of transcendent enlightenment. The one who can recognize dim and dull is definitely not dim and dull, Where else do you want to seek transcendental enlightenment? After all, gentlemen of affairs who study this path must depend on their dimness and dullness to enter. But if you hold to dimness and dullness, considering yourself to be without the qualifications for the path, then you're being controlled by the demons of dimness and dullness. Since those with commonplace understanding often make the intention of seeking transcendent enlightenment into an obstacle set before them, their own correct understanding cannot appear before them, and this obstacle does not come from the outside. It's nothing else but the boss man who recognizes the dimness and dullness. Thus, when Master Yin was dwelling constantly in his room, he would call to himself, "Boss," and also respond to himself, "Yes, be alert, I will. Hereafter, don't fall for people's deceptions, I won't." Fortunately, since ancient times, there have been such models. Arouse yourself right here. See what it is. The one who does the arousing isn't anyone else. He's just the one that can recognize dullness and dimness. And the one who recognizes dimness and dullness isn't anyone else. He's your own fundamental identity. This is me giving medicine to suit the disease, having no other alternatives, briefly pointing out the road for you to return home and sit in peace, and that's all. If you stick to dead words and say it really is your fundamental identity, then you're acknowledging the conscious spirit as yourself, and this has even less to do with it. Therefore, Master Chang Sha said, people studying the path don't know the truth. It's just because they've always accepted the conscious spirit. This, the root of birth and death, over immeasurable edges, fools call the original man. What I said before about depending on dimness and dullness to enter is this. Simply see that the one who can know dimness and dullness like this ultimately is. Just look right here. Don't seek in transcendent enlightenment. Just observe and observe. Suddenly you'll laugh out loud. Beyond this, there's nothing can be said. Meditation. Both torpor and excitation were condemned by the former sages. When you're sitting quietly, as soon as you feel the presence of either of these two diseases, just bring up the saying, "A dog has no Buddha nature." Don't exert effort to push away these two kinds of diseases. Just be peaceful and still right there. Over a long time, as you become aware of saving power, this is the place where you gain power. Nor do you have to engage in quiet meditation. This itself is meditation. Keeping the mind still, but mindless. Dear brother, if from the beginning you had ever known of such matters as keeping the mind still and forgetting concerns, then you would have found your nostrils wherever you touched. Though you may not fully know whether the teachers of various localities are wrong or right, if your own basis is solid and genuine, the poisons of wrong doctrines will not be able to harm you. Keeping the mind still and forgetting concerns included. If you always forget concerns and keep the mind still, without smashing the mind to birth and death, then the delusive influences of form, sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness will get their way, and you'll inevitably be dividing emptiness into two. While quiet, you experience the immeasurable bliss. Amidst clamor, you experience immeasurable suffering. If you want to equalize bliss and suffering, don't arouse mind to keep still. Don't arouse mind to keep mind still, and don't use mind to forget concerns. 24 hours a day, let go and make yourself vast and expansive. When old habits suddenly arise, don't use mind to repress them. Just go right into this sudden arising and observe the saying, does a dog have Buddha nature or no? No. At just such a time, it is like a snowflake on a red-hot stove. For those with a discerning eye and a familiar hand, one leap, and they leap out clear. Only then do they know Lazy Young's saying. Right when using mind, there's no mental activity. Crooked talk defiled with names and forms, straight talk without complications. Without mind but functioning, always functioning but not existent. The mindlessness I speak of now is not separate from having mind. These aren't words to deceive people. Alright, pause button. Be back.